Hi, everybody. This is your friend Daniel Hutchins. We're back again for another late night video, and we are decided to return to the Den of Geek. Yes, the Den of Geek. Now, we haven't been on the Den of Geek for well over a long time, so we're back on Den of Geek again. So, today from Den of Geek, we're talking about the punk rock Spider Man. Yes, the punk rock Spider Man. The punk rock Spider Man finally gets his own series from Marvel. The punk rock Spider Man gets his own band together in a new Spider Punk series done by Marvel Comics. Okay, this was 2 months ago, everyone. So it's kind of recent, somewhat. So Marvel brought us the Spider Verse several years ago, but it's great reunion for all the different variation of Spider-Man we see through the years. Spider-Man from What If, Spider-Man Japanese TV show, Spider-Man 2099, Spider-Man Goofy newspaper strips, so on, and so on. Among those are all the web swingers, there was one spike-head rebel who stood out the fresh-faced hero of the multiverse. We know Hobart Brown of Earth 138, the Spider Punk Spider Man. Yeah, the Spider Punk Spider Man. We know he's coming with his own series and his own book in April. Yes, in April, in the springtime. He's going to be getting his own series. Writer Cody Ziegler and Justin Mason have been thinking about 5 books for the Spider Punk miniseries for Marvel. So far, it's a incarnation of some other villains as well, the Green Goblin, the Vulture, and Kang. He's also teamed up with Spider people from several times over. Again, we focus more on him and his dystopian world of Spider Punk. Yes, Spider Punk. Now, Spider Punk, he's going to have his own series, guys. Yeah, he's having his own series. We got to speak to him himself, the artist Cody Ziegler himself, about the project. Funny though, to say, the whole miniseries seemed tailor made from him to the beginning. Okay, we've decided to write 5 books, of course, Amazing Spider-Man, and 2 backups from the Miles Morales Spider-Man. We also wrote the What If Miles Morales, which did, Ziegler says. We joke about regularly doing some Marvel editor stuff. We want to write more Spider-Man. If he's Black Spider-Man or whatever, we're the guy to come to. As we put on it up to higher ups, we tell him, calm down. If it ever pops up again, we'll know. But hey, not only the Black Spider Man has his own series, we want to do the Punk Spider Man. Yeah, we want to do the Punk Spider Man. So he's really enthusiastic about this project, the Punk Spider Man. Okay, you want to know more about the Spider Punk Spider Man? Okay, so now if you haven't been aware, the Spider Punk Spider Man, his first non team adventure, was with President Osborn, his symbiote army, in a power of music, rebellion, and very graphic guitars to his skull. Where does his hero go from there? That's a good question. Ziegler has compared this by taking down Osborn to blow up the Death Star, quite literally, meaning the aftermath was stealing the institutions of the Empire. Now, again, this is very much him saying this, and though he's just a figurehead, okay, Ziegler also dropped the variant of Riri Williams, part of his heroic band. The band is also features 4 or 5 members. Okay, so there is a big band that is revealed in the end of the book, but it's really fun to reimagine, he said. Inadvertently, Spider Punk Spider Man will make an interesting companion piece to what's been writing in Amazing Spider Man these days. In recent books, Beyond Corporation has rewrites to everything Spider Man using Ben Riley as an official Spider Man. Ben Riley, yes, we talked about him on another chat here on channel Daniel Hutchins. Also, we gradually realize that he's on the wrong side. He gears up the anti authority adventures. Now, there's definitely some parallels and some blanks, though, between Hobby and Ben Riley, Ziegler said. But there's definitely stuff we have to touch up on more, like the Craven the Hunter books and a little bit of the Doc Ock books. But where it comes with Ben Riley up against, we really don't know, but literally a faceless corporation. The heightened versions of what we want to see Hobby the Spider-Punk Spider-Man face against a corrupt American institution. Therefore, definitely big through lines through going through after a corporation other than the government. There definitely is some stuff that we are writing for the Amazing Spider-Man in the future. We want to explore bigger, more refined, and think better than just a Spider-Punk run. The Spider-Punk run is still happening, guys. Yes, the Spider-Punk Spider-Man is still happening. So there is definitely some parallels, everyone, between Hobby and Ben Riley. Again, we know small people against giant institutions. Spider-Punk and his new allies were face to face with new enemies, which will clash in the spring, in April, which is coming up pretty shortly, against Spider-Punk. Again, there's going to be 5 books. 5 books. It's a mini series about the Spider-Punk Spider-Man, Hobby Brown. I also had the name drop Ben Riley because he was talked about in this as well. Okay, so I'm just letting y'all know that is what's going on with the Spider-Punk Spider-Man. Okay, so I might do about a few more, squeeze them in, kind of embed them into the video, because we are, after all, the Den of Geek. So, we'll keep going. All right. So most people are saying they want to give James Gunn a Justice League movie. Okay, just like we had Zack Snyder had a Justice League movie. We want people are demanding James Gunn to have a Justice League movie. Okay, the Suicide Squad and the Peacemaker proves James Gunn is the right director for a new Justice League movie, even though we just had one with Zack Snyder, for a perfect comic book adaptation to adapt. This was from February the 18th, so there are spoilers from the Suicide Squad and Peacemaker. Picking up where we were with the James Gunn Suicide Squad and Peacemaker, the hilarious show from the DC Extended Universe, that fleshes out the world of Project Argus and Task Force X. They brought some depth into Amanda Waller as a bonus. Like James Gunn himself, DC movie, and again, Peacemaker wasn't afraid to revel in some obscure DC references. Implication to expand the boundary of the DC Extended Universe. Green Arrow, Doll Man, Matter Eater Lad. There, the list can go on and on. But nobody really expects the Justice League to show up, did they? Well, they did, and it was awesome. Yes, the Peacemaker season finale actually delivered the Justice League cameo. Joke earlier has paid off to Superman, Aquaman, Flash, and Wonder Woman, mostly appearing in silhouettes. Too late for any of the help to get lashing with the Cena's Peacemaker. Okay, so it's not quite a real cameo, but it's just the silhouettes and the shadows. As done before, there was a cameo where Henry Cavill's Superman showed up in Shazam, but Peacemaker did this a lot further, with Jason Momoa and Ezra Miller returning and trading in some hilarious moments. Okay, we mean it's really something a miracle that Warner Brothers executives allowed Momoa, the first billion-dollar hero, Aquaman, to utter words "fuck you, Barry" to Miller's Flash, although his movie is due until later this year. What is hilarious is that it really isn't a word we associate with the DC Extended Universe version of the Justice League. As we have people who were Snyder fans, the Zack Snyder had favored a mythic, almost operative take on his team, though his brief cameo is just a piece of proof that Gunn has edgier comedic sensibility, just more to the core DC characters, like he does with his Misfits, the Suicide Squad. Hell, the Suicide Squad even featured the first villain the Justice League ever faced, the primary menace we know, Starro. This is weirdly nuanced alien threat the Peacemaker wouldn't have felt completely out of place with, because we've seen it in Suicide Squad last summer. Again, we know that Gunn has proven he's more capable of big action cosmic spectacles both with his DC projects and with Guardians of the Galaxy wrapping up in Marvel. But where the weirdos are, he's worked with the DC Extended Universe might make it seem like he's more better suited to sticking to his margins. Then it isn't necessarily the case. In fact, one of the greatest Justice League comics of all time was tailor made, not just for gun sensibility, but a strange transitional moment of DC Universe itself. Okay, Justice League International. Yes, there actually was a time in 1987 where you had the relaunch of the Justice League called Justice League International, which transitioned pretty much spawned right off of Crisis of Infinite Earths. Yes, where you had Wally West Flash, Wonder Woman, Superman, and all your other team members of the Justice League. Again, Green Lantern was also inclusion on the roster too. Again, we know results of the team consisted mostly second strangers like Blue Beetle, Black Canary, Dr. Fate, and Dr. White, Martian Manhunter, Mr. Miracle, Booster Gold, Guy Gardner, who is an obnoxious, arrogant Green Lantern who had a lot of books in the 90s. And he's also led by usually annoyed Batman and financed by Maxwell Lord. Giffen, DeMatteis, and Maguire decided to take this group of also ran the Justice League into the series we know, Justice League International. This has basically had the workplace dynamics of interpersonal conflict and comedy about saving the world. Fans of beloved, brilliant TV show Legends of Tomorrow recognize this formula of example, where Justice League was retitled Justice League International. They gave more birth to Blue Beetle and Booster Gold. The best buddy bromance featured Black Canary in a verge of throttling some insufferably sexist Guy Gardner, who is the arrogant Green Lantern, and has simultaneously reveled on Gardner tormenting the childlike Shazam for being too straight-laced. He also introduced Martian Manhunter fondness of Oreos and delivered arguably a funny page of DC Comics in any generation. Yes, they sure did. The book was also massive critical creative successes, unlike anything ever published by DC and Marvel in the time. The entire run was being collected by trade paperback and it's also available on DC Universe Infinite, where basically you can read all your digital DC books at. Just like Marvel has Marvel Unlimited, well, DC Universe has DC Universe Infinite, which is kind of the same similar thing where you can read digital books. Again, this is a book that heavily influenced both the Gun, Suicide Squad, and the Peacemaker. Yes, the Suicide Squad again launched the same time as Justice League, but they hold up incredibly more well, and we can't recommend them highly enough. Okay, the new Justice League roster. Well, again, we know DC Extended Universe is going through a rebuild. Again, but back in 1987, folks, 1987, there was an attempt to make a new Justice League, but that project of that movie was in a little bit of a limbo. Now, again, we also see Henry Cavill time as Superman has finished. Ben Affleck has no intention to return as Batman. Gal Gadot is pretty busy, completing her trilogy with Patty Jenkins. So that kind of sets up some empty windows. Empty windows. Again, Green Lantern is having a Green Lantern Corps series on HBO Max. So Green Lantern's off the board. So okay, mission statements of DC Extended Universe themselves have changed considerably since Zack Snyder first built the big screen Justice League. Now, some overcorrections, though, it was done by Joss Whedon, but most people argue Joss Whedon didn't do as well as Snyder. Again, recent years have seen lighter tones of the Shazam, the Suicide Squad, Birds of Prey, and Aquaman. The classic run of Justice League themselves in the matter guns to DC screen efforts, we see that doesn't lower their stakes. Gunn is particularly more home with cosmic alien threats and more, say, work with the weirdos. Again, the type that the Justice League should be taken in. It's not easy to imagine a new Justice League movie with Momoa, Aquaman, the Miller Flash, Zachary Levi Shazam, Joni Smollett's Black Canary making up the cores of the league, along with newcomers like Blue Beetle and probably Batgirl, played by Leslie Grace. Now, to finally close that out, you need to have Martian Manhunter, because let's not forget Martian Manhunter. He's really cool too. So again, There are some events that also happened after the events of Wonder Woman 1984, and there was also rumors swirling around Michael Keaton could continue in the older, more experienced Batman, extended cameos, and is an exasperated strategist who helps complete the flavors of the new classic comic series. Again, the tones again, keep in mind, advocating the flattening of the DC Extended Universe style of the gun and his edgy comedy as smart things Warner Brothers wants to keep around. Having him be the chief superhero movie maker competition has to be able to allow different directors to make distinctive styles on the works they're adapting. There is still room for Patty Jenkins to have one more Wonder Woman movie in a trilogy. There is likelihood that Matt Reeves is probably going to have more Batman, etc., 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 etc. Again, in the meantime, Gunn, Justice League could also revitalize the unfortunate mishap that we had from the theatrical version by Joss Whedon and the Zack Snyder Justice League. Both in vindication of director vision and fans' faith from them. Again, but again, all accounts, the era is over. Pandemic is an R rating, and again, difficult franchise legacies have to span on. Simultaneously, screaming releases have hobbled Gunn's Suicide Squad in the box office, but has still been a very, very successful adventure. Again, potential new Justice League movies wouldn't face that same challenge. Hopefully, if Gunn was in director chair. Now, if he only if he hadn't already used the Starro, but they already used Starro, so you're gonna have to kind of think of someone else. Okay, so if you can have James Gunn make a Justice League movie, you can include those like heroes we mentioned in that list, like in that paragraph near the end, like I just mentioned. And not only that, you always have to remember that, I mean, yeah, you had Starro, you already used Starro, so it wouldn't make sense to use him a second time. You'd want to use a different, more obscure villain if you want to kind of make the Justice League movie, the Gun Justice League movie, if it were a Gun Justice League movie. You have to kind of keep in mind that there is some ideas. You just kind of have to think about who you want in your team, what the plot story is, and most importantly, not repeat in Starro. That is another thing. You don't want to repeat the same villain that you used from your Suicide Squad movie. You want to have someone fresh. So again, let me know your guys' thoughts. This is just another late night video. And you have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful day. And I'll see you all around later. Bye.